too. Therefore, while the UK is not in the Eurozone and we have no intention of joining the Euro, it is in Britain's interest to have a strong and healthy Eurozone. And nothing would do more to help our economic recovery right now than a resolution of the Eurozone crisis. That's why I've been frank with leaders here today that they need to come together and take responsibility for their currency. They need to agree a comprehensive and credible package that puts the successful future of the Eurozone beyond doubt. Yesterday, finance ministers, including the Chancellor of the Exchequer, made good progress, but more progress is needed in discussions they hold this afternoon and as they continue in the days ahead. And there will be a further European Council for all 27 heads of government on Wednesday before the Eurozone conference gets going. I think that is a good thing. That gives us the opportunity to finalise the decisions on the banking recapitalisation, which is something that concerns all 27 countries, and it gives another opportunity to feed in the importance of agreeing a comprehensive package that will put the future of the euro on more secure foundations. And I'll be attending that meeting on Wednesday evening. I've also argued that this crisis means that greater fiscal and economic integration in the eurozone is inevitable. But this must not be at the expense of Britain's national interest. So I've secured a commitment today, which will be in the Council conclusions, that we must safeguard the interests of countries that want to stay outside the euro, particularly with respect to the integrity of the single market for all 27 countries of the EU. That is our key national interest in Britain, not only to have this eurozone working better so it doesn't endanger our economy, but also to have the single market powering ahead so that can help drive growth and opportunity in our own country. There is reference in the Council conclusions to the possibility of treaty change that will be looked into and reported back at the December summit. I'll just make 2 points here. First of all, of course, treaty change can only happen if it is agreed by all 27 member states of the European Union, and any treaty change, as the last treaty change did, is an opportunity for Britain to advance our national interest. The last limited treaty change, which brought about the European Stability Mechanism, gave us the opportunity to get out of the Euro bailout fund that the last government opted into. So we, I think, use that to advance our national interest. Any future treaty change, we would use that to advance our national interest once again. As well as resolving the immediate financial crisis, we also need to find a long-term solution, a sustainable way to pay off the debt, and that solution is sticking to our fiscal plans, but also stimulating growth. We need to harness the full potential of the single market. We need to reduce regulation. We need to increase our trade with third countries. And we need to ensure that new EU rules do not stifle growth and job creation. So I've secured a commitment today, again reflected in the Council conclusions, for a new growth test to apply to everything that the EU does, to ensure that all actions at the European level fully support economic growth and job creation. That means that measures by the EU should be about helping our businesses to expand and to create jobs. Seeing the Commission presentation to the Council today very much proved that actually the British agenda in terms of completing the Services Directive, completing the single market, completing energy liberalisation, encouraging trade with other countries like Korea and India and Canada, that British agenda is now being driven right through the EU, and the Commission is actually helping us to drive that agenda. Finally, foreign affairs. On Iran, in addition to the EU measures against all 5 individuals linked to the assassination plot in the United States, we have signalled that Iran will face further pressure if the threat of its nuclear programme continues. And today, as Libyans are celebrating the end of 40 years of ruthless dictatorship, and Tunisians are going to the polling booths for the first time, we have reaffirmed that Europe will stand by them on their journey to a fair and democratic society, and will continue to support others in the region who are still suffering at the hands of brutal dictators. We've said that in Syria, President Assad should stand aside, and we make clear today there will be further sanctions, including through the European Union, if the repression of civilians does not end. Thank you very much for listening. Happy to take some questions. Let's start with the BBC.
Gavin Hewitt from the BBC. Prime Minister, you made it clear you wanted the big bazooka taken out here to try and fix this Eurozone crisis. Is that what you are seeing, or is it more sticking plaster?
No, I think we are beginning to see the elements of a strong package coming together. What's been needed to help deal with the current uncertainty is a clear recapitalisation of Europe's banks, and a good agreement was reached last night. We need to make sure we increase the scale of the European Financial Stability Facility, and conversations are ongoing about that. And we need to make sure we deal decisively with the Greek situation. It wouldn't be right to speculate about another country and what needs to happen, but those are the three key elements that need to come together, next Wednesday, that need to be put in place before the G20 comes to Cannes. And at the same time as that, we must not ignore the real problems that Europe has faced in terms of not having flexible enough economies, not having enough of a growth agenda. One of the problems of the European Union is that it comes together and discusses how to be more competitive, how to complete the single market, how to increase our trade, and yet not enough gets done. And there was a very effective presentation by the Commission today about all the steps that we could take that would raise our level of productivity and help us to take on, in Europe, the other economic giants of the world. And that agenda is a very strong British agenda. It's what we've been arguing for years. More free trade with other countries, complete the elements of the single market, make sure Europe is about boosting competitiveness rather than adding to rules and regulations and costs. It includes things like trying to shorten the time it takes to set up a small business. Brilliant slide in the pack showing that some countries it can take as little as 3 days to set up a small business in Europe, and some countries in Europe it can take up to 40. It's those sorts of things that we need to change. There is a positive agenda to drive growth and jobs, which we are driving forward. Sam.
Sam Coates from The Times. The mention of treaty change sounds like an unexpected result in the conclusions. Is it something that you argued against? And what sort of treaty are we talking about here? And did you suggest to fellow leaders that Britain might be able to repatriate powers, and how did that go down?
No, the idea of there being another examination of what others refer to as the possibility of limited treaty change has always been floating around, because those countries in the Eurozone that see the need for greater integration recognise that it may be necessary to have treaty change as well as other measures to integrate their economies. As I've always said, treaty change in the future may well present a good opportunity for Britain. The last treaty change, which we haven't even put through Parliament yet, but the last treaty change, which was to create the European Stability Mechanism, gave us the opportunity in Britain to get out of the bailout funds for the Eurozone. So we exacted a good price for that treaty change. If there's treaty change in the future, the point I'm making today is remember, it has to be agreed by unanimity by every single member state, and obviously it would give further opportunities for Britain to advance its national interest. We shouldn't get ahead of ourselves in that the idea of the possibility of treaty change then has to go back to the European Council, then you have to have a convention, then you've got to consult the European Parliament, then, this process can take years. Even the small treaty change of the European Stability Mechanism, we are hoping to ratify in Britain by the end of December 2012. So there's no point getting ahead of ourselves about what this might mean, but I see it as an opportunity. Feeding into the debate tomorrow, I don't think this is the right time to legislate for an in-out referendum. I think this is the right time to sort out Europe's problems, sort out the Eurozone problem, defend your national interest, and look to the opportunities there may be in the future to repatriate powers back to Britain. And obviously, the idea of some limited treaty change in the future might give us that opportunity. Tom Newton-Dunn.
So, Professor, I think you might just made mention to what I was going to say there. Can you confirm that any treaty change you would, in this government, not in any future governments, look to repatriate powers back to Britain, or even confirm that is absolutely the government's intention? And secondly, should we interpret this as an olive branch to some of your rebels of tomorrow?
But you can interpret it how you want to. The key thing is this: if there is a treaty change proposal that comes forward, that gives Britain, as a non-Eurozone country, the opportunity to say, well, in response for this treaty change, what's in the British national interest. Now, when there was the treaty change for the European Stability Mechanism, which was quite a small treaty change, we had that opportunity to work out, well, what was in Britain's best interest. I judged, and I think it's right, that the best interest for Britain was to extract ourselves from the bailout funds that were threatening to involve us in Greek bailouts and other bailouts in the future.